Oh, hey, it's Tuesday and it's my live stream day. This is the old microphone setup that has been abandoned for a very simple one. Yeah, and check out this Rubik's Cube. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Truthfully, I completely suck at this, but nonetheless, since I used it in my profile thumbnail pic, I thought I'd just start with that. But today, okay, we're going to do a live stream about something that starts with a B. No, it's not Bitcoin, it's biotech. I know many of you will be thinking, well, why are you doing biotech, Paul? Bitcoin's pumping to $57,000. Why are you not talking about biotech? And, why are you not talking about Bitcoin? And the thing is, hey, we try to be like a little bit ahead of the curve. We've been talking about Bitcoin now for what, 3, 6 months? I mean, at the lows, I mean, we were still bullish. And, I did a live stream on Friday where I went into this model that I built and talked in detail about it. So, we've done Bitcoin. I know there's a lot of excitement about it. But today I want to continue on another theme that in hindsight, let's say 2, 3, 5 years from now, you're like, oh, wow, this is where I should have been. This is where I should have been. I should have been putting my money here. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And that's biotechnology, genetics. I just want to make my case again for why, in my opinion, in my judgment, this is the leadership sector of the future. Before we do that, do all the usual things. Our legal disclaimer, which is that this live stream and the content from ATG Digital Media is not investment or financial advice. It is presented to you as opinion, information, engagement, and entertainment. Whatever you choose to do with it is your responsibility. It's your money. It's your responsibility. All ATG digital content may contain errors, oversights, and mistakes. Understand that investment operations, which means what? Buying, selling a stock, crypto, doing anything like that, have significant risk and can lead to the loss of your principal. In other words, your money. Next, the owners, employees, contractors, own, trade, transact, and securities are mentioned in this video and all content from ATG Digital Media. If you want to just look at all the free things that we put out, the Substack, there's the Ball Man Speculating podcast, which is on Spotify. Obviously, this YouTube video. These are all the places you can find me. On social media, that's the same thing. On social media, I'm very active on X. I write actually almost like long form essays on X, so follow me there. Also do videos there. Dean, who is going to be on in a little bit to tell you about his YouTube channel. He's very active in my name on Facebook, so you can go there. Quick plug for atgdigital.media, which is our company. And if you're, like the information, like the way we approach markets, are looking for, more, ATG Digital Media subscriptions start at $9.99. Okay, I've got my agenda here, which is that quietly in the background, while people are highly hyped and focused on artificial intelligence, these big tech stocks, Mag 7, all this other stuff. People are, bidding up Berkshire Hathaway to the moon, all these things. Yeah, there is underneath the market, there is this shifting going on. The tectonic plates, if you will, the tectonic plates of the market are shifting. And where is it shifting to? Well, it's generally shifting away from pretty much all the stuff that's incredibly high, that has gotten just bid up and surged up over the last 3 years, really since the top in the stocks that we focus on at ATG Digital Media, which is what? Innovation, growth, crypto, opportunity. In other words, newer companies that are catering to a newer audience. I mean, since that topped out, there has been an enormous surge of money that's gone into big tech stocks, dividend stocks, safety stocks, and it's everything big. And everything else has kind of been crushed and left behind. And starting about October of last year, we started to see the first signs of sort of like a movement where, like, yeah, some of these small stocks, some of the stocks in the OGI, opportunity, growth, innovation, and crypto, started to find a few buyers willing to come in and buy at low prices as opposed to sell at low prices. And that's kind of like put, the first signs of a bottom. And then we had like a spike into like late December, back down again. And now we're seeing more and more signs. And if you go and look, I mean, even today, there's like, you can see biotechnology stocks like getting a bid. In other words, buyers are coming and they're buying. And it's unlikely that these buyers today are a lot of very, let's say, small retail investors, because biotechnology, and I used to be a biotech analyst on Wall Street. It's a sophisticated sector. It requires an understanding of, obviously, a little bit of biotechnology, genetic science. You have to understand the psychology of investors. You have to understand government regulation of how clinical trials are done, how FDA approval happens. So this is not a sector that you're going to find a lot of retail investors. In other words, these are professional investors that are buying in. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because they got, a lot of money. I mean, they control trillions of dollars. And so if they're coming in and starting to take the bottom, the little low price float, the low price stock in, well, as anyone else starts to figure out what, I've been telling you for a few months, well, they have to bid these stocks higher. And that's the way gains happen in the market. Most people truthfully have no idea how gains are generated, but the market is driven by demand and supply. There are buyers and there are sellers. If you come to buy and you cannot find enough of a stock or crypto, then you're forced to bid it higher. And that's how gains are generated. So let me get down to quickly talking about biotech and why. And I've laid this out before, so none of this is completely new. But why? Well, if you go and look at any sector of the economy, most sectors have, shifted a great deal or a small deal. I mean, you think about energy, we have, solar power, we have batteries, we have EVs that are starting to, use energy in a different way. When you go to healthcare, most healthcare is still practiced almost like it was, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago. But we have incredible technology today that has been developed over 20, 30 years. It's really, the revolution begins in 1999, 2000 with the decoding of the human genome. And that allows for drugs to be developed in a completely different way, incorporating this new knowledge. It allows for tests to be incorporated, to be created in a way so that you can test for, like, hey, is this drug right for you? Hey, is this the right diagnosis for you? But it's not yet really implemented at scale in the healthcare system. In other words, there is so much ready, coiled spring, untapped potential into a marketplace for healthcare where it is so needed. Why is it so needed? Costs are crazy high. I forget. I mean, I think it's like 30% of, like, of GDP is healthcare expenses. We have a labor shortage where we don't have enough doctors, don't have enough nurses, don't have enough surgeons. So it is an area that is ripe for, it's not really disruption. It's really like it needs all these things that have been sitting there, sort of like in development, working on it. And I know what many of you will say, well, Paul, I still go to my doctor and I'm perfectly happy to have them put the stethoscope on me, check that way. Yeah, that's all true. And that may be true, but just remember, everyone is not you and you are not everyone. And if you go and look at these companies, they have millions of customers. They are getting their drugs approved. People are starting to use these tests. These tests are generally more accurate. They're cheaper. They provide more access. They're more convenient. And they don't require, the old entire legacy setup. So in other words, things are set up for these to scale up. And scale up means what? Well, growth starts to go up, profit starts to go up, investors chase both of those things. And now as they come to buy, they push those stock prices up. Those show up as gains in your account, which is what we want to see. So I have mentioned, when people say, well, what technologies are you talking about? Well, one of the places that, it's an absolute revolution is this CRISPR technology that, I've talked about before. First drug that's been approved for CRISPR, treating a really very difficult to treat, previously almost untreatable disease of blood cancer. So that's one. We're talking about a drug that will go and swap out a gene so that, your body no longer produces the gene that generates, the cancer. I mean, this is miracle stuff, miracle stuff. And I'll type in some of these sticker symbols in a bit, but you probably know most of them. CRSP is CRISPR Therapeutics. Moderna, this mRNA technology is absolutely going to be revolutionize prevention in terms of cancers and other diseases. So that's mRNA, that's Moderna. It's sort of fallen off the radar a little bit, but telemedicine is one that addresses the shortage of doctors and personnel. I mean, we simply don't have enough doctors or enough nurses or enough really, any of this. The healthcare system just needs a lot more people. And the easiest way to sort of, increase the supply of healthcare, where we can't do it by training more people. It will take too long. It's too expensive. But we can use technology to increase the efficiency and productivity of people. And that's, the stock that right now is quite hated. But yeah, let's see in 2 or 3 years. Teladoc, TDOC. Finally, I mentioned genetics and how, the decoding of the genome in 1999, 2000, that was like the sort of like the genesis moment for what I'll call new healthcare and new world that's coming. And we have a company that's in our silver tier model portfolio, Exact Sciences, that is highly focused on this. I mean, they have a blood biopsy technology that can screen for every type of cancer. I mean, this could be a product and service that is worth billions and billions of dollars. So that's some of the technologies that can underpin like a major shift in the markets. I have said before that we are inured to the idea that markets are forever going to be led by computer technology. Why? Well, that's because it's been the recent past. But the truth is that if you went to the 1990s market, the biggest stocks were industrialization stocks, like General Electric was the biggest stock at the top of the 2000 market. And so the market's leadership changes, and we have not really seen anything other than computer technology in the last sort of, let's say, 10, 15 years. That's sort of been the informal leader where the excitement was, where the development was. And you know what? The hype was justified. I mean, we've got the internet, we've got all these communications, we've got social media, but you needed to look at it that way 10, 15 years ago. Where are the places to look at if you were forward 5 or 10 years ago? In my opinion, my judgment, it's biotechnology, it's genetics, it's generally in healthcare, where there's a revolution that is coming, a revolution in the kinds of drugs that are available to treat previously untreatable diseases. We've got a matching system where drugs are matched to your genetic code. Your diagnosis is done using a test, which is much more precise than previous methods. We've got telemedicine, which would allow you to access healthcare from anywhere. So all of these things put together form the basis of in my opinion, what is going to be a revolution. Now, I'm just going to hit Dean up to ask him to come on and talk about his YouTube channel. Okay, and he's here. All right, Dean, I did my biotech spiel, and so welcome to the channel. Have you been on before? I can't remember.
I was on once at Banging Hill. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, folks, this is Dean, and I just want to introduce all of you to Dean. Dean is truthfully, along with his wife, one of the inspirations for the creation of ATG Digital Media, we're, all of you and me are grateful to both of them because they came up with the idea, truthfully, once I was terminated from Banyan Hill. And I'm just going to mention to people that are new to this channel, because we do have some new people. I got my following from being at a publisher called Banyan Hill, where I used to have 165,000 subscribers. And prior to that, I was on Wall Street, which is why, they got me to be a newsletter guru. But that's, and Dean was on my team back at Banyan Hill. But now Dean is, is our superstar. Dean handles, I don't know, multiple roles at ATG Digital. We're a small team. So, I handle multiple roles. And Dean, what are the multiple roles you handle?
Social media. I also help with the diamond tier portfolio, Substack contributions as well, and just anywhere I can help. I really love what we do, so I've been excited to help anywhere I can.
Yeah, and Dean is unbelievably smart. I just have to tell him one thing once, and boom, it's immediately incorporated into everything. So, all right, Dean. So you've been inspired to start your own YouTube channel, which is called what? It is
Yes,
777 Finance.
Yes.
Okay, so hey, everyone, go to YouTube. And 777 Finance. And before I ask you why, what is 777 Finance? What is the 777 a reference to?
Yeah, so I feel like when I met you, you really inspired me to take bets that have massive upside, and the 777 sort of it has like a casino reference, although it's not casino related. So that is really the inspiration for it, and decided to name it 777 Finance.
It's also interesting because my birthday is on July 7th. So, I was
Wow.
curious. Okay, so then tell folks why you've started the channel.
Yeah, I just feel like we cover such a wide variety of stocks across so many sectors, including cryptos, that it's just not enough coverage for these things. And I find that I can't talk to my wife for 10 hours about these things. So I figured, why not start a channel where I can engage with people and offer, guidance and coverage, mainly just coverage of what we're doing at ATG, but also just making it like my own lab of being able to experiment and to grow. So.
Yeah, and so, tell folks some of like the subjects that you are excited about, that you
Yeah,
want to tell people about, or even specific stocks, sectors. I just went on and on about biotechnology for about 15 minutes. Tell folks, some of the things that move you, like they're like, man, I love this.
Right. I remember the last time I was in your channel, we talked about crypto, and I was like, we're so early that it hurts. That was one of the things that stuck in my mind, and I feel like I'm a huge proponent of crypto, not just Bitcoin, but as Bitcoin goes up, they're going to be like, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of altcoins that have the ability to follow that trajectory, and in some cases outperform Bitcoin in terms of hundreds of percents that it can go up. And so I'm huge on altcoins, Bitcoin. I'm a huge proponent of coin and crypto-related stocks like CleanSpark, Mara. That's essentially my wheelhouse and where I really like to work.
So the channel will have a lot on crypto.
Yeah.
That will be one of the primary focuses. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell folks one other place that, you're into. I know you've been into crypto because I remember the one time I think you came on at Banyan Hill, you were incredibly bullish. And I was very proud of you. I was like, oh man, it's bullish, huh? Like me. But tell folks, so crypto, this is definitely in your wheelhouse. And, I know you write on my Substack about crypto, but what other sector inspires you, maybe makes you curious, is interested? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I will say AI, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm not trying to be trendy, but we're at ATG Digital. We're a huge proponent of technology that will facilitate massive change at scale, and that's AI. I recently got a life insurance policy, an additional life insurance policy with Geico, and Lemonade first, and that took like 10 minutes. With Geico, it took like 4 days. And that's just one small snippet of how AI is just going to disrupt and change how we live and how we participate in the world. And so it's massive opportunity when you look at these stocks that aren't even valued in some cases over $1 billion, in some cases under 5 billion. I mean, we're watching the creation of just a new reality that's unfolding before us right now. I remember when Coinbase was counting out at $30. They said Coinbase would close. Now Coinbase is facilitating institutional investors, buying up Bitcoin, so much so that they have to continually purchase more and more Bitcoin because they just are running out of it. So just those technologies that have the ability to transform the world, AI, crypto, the millennial boom, those stocks as well, that's changing consumer behavior like DoorDash and Uber. Very, very bullish on those.
Yeah, yeah, and so are we at ATG Digital Media. How often do you think you're going to be posting? What can folks look forward to? Is there going to be something this week? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so my goal is to publish every other week because I plan to publish every other week on ATG's channel as well, on your channel. So one week I'll be on this channel posting, and the next week I'll be on my personal channel posting. Because we flip flop, Dan and I. So one week I'm on, the other week Dan's on. So that's my hope, to publish once every 2 weeks.
That's awesome. Okay, folks. Dean, superstar, really, absolutely amazing superstar. Go to Lucky 77. Liz put up in the comments Lucky 777. It's 777 Finance, and if you look at the comments, you'll see the link to the YouTube channel. Before I let you go, Dean. What do you want to tell folks about ATG Digital Media? You mentioned a few things in our sort of planning thing that you wanted to tell folks about.
Yeah, I want to talk about our free Substack. I'm going to post that in the comments. This guy, Paul Mampilli, is literally a generational talent. I know people always sing his praises. When stocks are going up, they love to do that. When stocks are going down, they're not so happy. But that's just the nature of the markets. That's the one thing we can count on for certain. It's volatility. But I can tell you, man, like I talk to my parents. I tell everyone I know that I'm so grateful that I met Paul, not because of the opportunity that I have, but just what I've been able to learn from him in just a short period of time. I feel like this could be the sort of wealth that you can pass on to generations, and they can also use this to generate wealth in the market. So if you're not following that free resource, I mean, it's literally free. We publish there Monday through Friday. You're really missing out. So I'm going to publish that in the comment section, and feel free to, subscribe.
Yeah, and we'll put a link. Do I have a link? Let me see. I might have a link somewhere. Do I have it? I'll copy it. Dean, or do you want to put it in? If you just put in the link to our Substack, which again is completely free. And unlike the old newsletter business where they tease you with like, hey, if you buy a $1,000 subscription, we'll give you the name of the stock. Yeah, I mean, we're much more open, and we are about, in the end, like, hey, if you end up making money, either, you'll come because you value what we do and you'll want to support us, or you'll need guidance or something like that. And that's why you'll come and subscribe and pay us. But hey, I'm sure, there's probably lots of people on the Substack, Dean, that probably are not subscribers, or just take the ideas and hey, that's okay.
Yeah, if you go on our Facebook page in the pin section, we have a comment where someone said they're up 156% just following the GBC 100, which is our gross sort of like you can explain the GBC better than I can, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like it was really inspired by ARK Innovation ETF,
Right.
and I was like, we can do that. ATG can do that. I mean, we know disruption and technology. We can build an index like that of 100 stocks. We'll limit it to 100 stocks that we were forced to try and get the best ideas in. And we started it right about the time that we started ATG Digital Media, and it's slightly outperforming the S&P 500 over the last, since inception, which, given the performance of the S&P 500, is pretty creditable. And that's also on the ATG Digital Media website. All right, Dean, I sense that tasks are calling you. Dean is the supremo of all operations at ATG Digital, controls the Substack, and there's content going out. We have an amazing team. I'm very grateful for them. We put out, for a tiny team of 7, we put out, all of this stuff out ourselves. So grateful to you, Dean, for coming on. I'm going to wave you goodbye. And folks, hey, 777 Finance. 77 is my birthday. So come on, go and support Dean. Subscribe to his channel and look forward to some amazing content. You're going to get crypto. I mean, Dean loves crypto, and then other stocks. And Dean's amazing. So please subscribe to Dean's channel. All right, Dean. See you soon.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye. All right. And I'm now going to very quickly do a little bit of analysis on one of the stocks that I mentioned last week, which is Ideaya Biosciences. So this is a stock that I put up, I think, in May of last year. And I said, number one risky biotechs. I kind of like briefly mentioned it. So yesterday in the Substack, I write every Monday on our Substack. I went into sort of like why it seems like this stock just keeps relentlessly just like being bid up. Like, I mean, it's very unusual to see, especially a biotech stock, because biotech companies like Ideaya are clinical stage companies. They don't really have a product they can sell. It's all driven by intellectual property. And, this stock is just this relentless movement up. And as I put it in, let me get the Substack up. There's also a way to try and get all of you folks to hopefully go in and subscribe. Oh, that's to scroll up. Okay, let's scroll up. Yeah. So I was telling in the Substack that when you see a chart that looks like this, I mean, it's just a relentless up and to the right. It makes me a little suspicious, which is that really, like, yeah, I mean, nobody wanted to come in and cash in on profits. Nobody wanted to, take 30%, 50%. I mean, but I mean, nobody, I don't mean like regular investors. I mean, like some institutional investor that bought in early and has made 50% as like, hey, I want to cash out and then go. Yeah. And so like it made me go and investigate, what is going on with this Ideaya Biosciences. Like, why is this such a strong stock? Strong, I don't mean like, oh, it's gone up a lot, but why is there just this undercurrent of demand? Like, who is buying this daily, weekly, monthly, and not willing to let go of whatever they have? Because if they were willing to let go of whatever they have, well, then you would see like much bigger dips. I mean, you would just see much bigger dips. But anytime a seller comes, there's a buyer. And that shows, that's like bears itself out in that kind of a line. So I started digging, and this is what I came up with. Now, hey, is this judgment perfect? Is this right? Is this guaranteed? Absolutely not. I just want us to make it clear. Biotech stocks are very risky. Why? Because like I said, they have no sales, they have no revenue. They depend on investors giving them cash to fund their operations. And their stock price is driven by events, clinical trials, FDA approval, takeovers by another company. So, just be fairly warned, it's still a risky stock despite this, seemingly like insatiable support for it. So this is what I came up with. Let me go back here and scroll to, so this is what I came up with. So on investigation, it looks like they have this drug. It's called IDE 397. I'll make this a little bit bigger. IDE 397. That should be hopefully clear. And the big thing about this drug, and remember, this is a phase 1, phase 2 drug, so it's fairly early on. They've got to go through various different forms of testing. I'm not going to go into all the phases of testing. I'll maybe do a side video sometime on clinical testing and what they mean. But phase 1, phase 2 is quite early. But nonetheless, it is the potential of this drug that, in my opinion, in my judgment, is making someone, I don't think this is a retail investor. I think this is an institutional investor be like, this could be a very, very, very big drug, like a game changer drug. A game changer, obviously, for the company, but game changer in terms of cancer therapy. Why? Well, because in their test, they have found that this drug has the potential to work in 15% of all solid tumors, All right. So what's a solid tumor? Well, essentially any sort of like physical mass cancer that's malignant is a solid tumor. 15% is a lot of tumors. As you can see in the article, it talks about prostate, breast, colorectal, lung, and others. Um, but here's really the part that that I believe that some number of investors are very focused on, that it works in a lot of people. So obviously big benefit. And the solid tumor market is huge, like almost $1 trillion market, $901 billion by 2029. So if you do basic math and you say like, okay, so 15% of 901 billion is 135 billion. And then you compare it to, well, like, hey, what could this drug sell and how much? Right now, the biggest selling drug, is a cancer drug that is sold by Merck. It's called Keytruda. And I remember, truthfully, when Keytruda was being developed, it was touted as a drug that would be widely used by a lot of different patients because it had an amazing benefit compared to the previous generation of drugs, and also the side effect profile was very favorable compared to previous drugs. So as a result, of course, uh, doctors were perfectly happy to prescribe it. Patients were perfectly happy to take it. They would stay on therapy, which gave them a benefit. And that, is how you get to a drug that obviously benefits patients, but also generates huge returns for the company. But Idea at this time is a $3.4 billion company. So my experience is that when a company can generate like $1 billion in sales, the market tends to get really excited. We're very interested in those companies, and they will pay somewhere between 5, 7, sometimes even 10 times sales of the peak sales of this drug. So we're at $3.4 billion with, in terms of market capitalization for Idea. And yeah, I mean, if it can get to be as big as Merck, you can see. I mean, you can generate some very, very large upside calculations um, from here. So the potential future market capitalization of Idea, I mean, it could be as big as what, 189 to 270 billion based on the total addressable market. Now, there's no, guarantee that they're going to get 15% of it. But if you just think, well, that if that's the peak potential, even if it does a half of that, even if it does a quarter of that, it's still a very large winner. And that is what I think, or I believe that someone that understands biotechnology is making this bet, which is like, hey, this drug has the potential to be huge. And why do they have this confidence? Well, Idea has a pipeline of drugs, which I believe I put up a slide earlier. You can see they have a pipeline of drugs, and you can see this very first drug, darovasertib. That one's actually much further along, phase 2, phase 3. And that had incredible results. It worked, if I remember correctly, in 65% of patients, provided a huge benefit. And that is based on similar science. It's the same research platform. So that's what, in my opinion, in my judgment, some investor with a large amount of money and willing to make a big bet is like seeing. And so as a result, that's why you're getting this pattern of chart. In other words, why, every time the company decides that, like, hey, we need more funding, they're like, here, take more money. Here's 50 million, here's 100. Because if you go and look, Ideaya Biosciences has been selling stock to fund their operations. I mean, they recently did, forget, a deal for like 100, 150 million, no problem. Stock still went up. And prior to that, they did a different deal. No problem. Stock still went up. It tells you that there is a very, very high conviction behind whoever is sitting behind this and be like, here, take my money, here, take my money, and for higher and higher prices. Why? I think it's because they have some version of this kind of calculation based on the potential of this particular drug. All right. So that's sort of like a little bit on the power of sort of new biotechnology. These drugs can work in a large population. They have much bigger benefit. They have a much lower side effect profile versus something like chemotherapy, which, is very difficult. And so the upside potential is much greater. And the most important thing is that, it's not reflected in the stock price. It's not reflected in the stock price. So as all of these things unfold, it's not discounted into the price. So then that brings in buyers that will come and bid prices higher. Those show up as gains in your portfolio. Okay. Very quickly, want to talk about, let's see, what do I want to show you? Yeah, let me share the long short, sell high, buy low portfolios that I've been sharing with you, where we, as you know, I have been telling you that in my opinion, my judgment, various major groups of the stock market are in a major topping pattern phenomenon. While retail and sort of like, individual investors think of a top as one day, if you're an institutional investor and you have to sell hundreds of millions of shares, hundreds of billions of dollars, tops are a formation. And whether it be market makers, managements, they're all aware. And in a previous video, I showed you that everybody from Buffett, Bezos, Zuckerberg, there's a lot of selling that is going on. I saw Jamie Dimon selling as well with JP Morgan. So the insiders, the market makers, in my opinion, they're running a massive manipulation, keeping prices high. There's people piling in because they're like, well, what if it goes even higher? I want in. I don't want to miss out. And I would say, from my experience, from my past of being in the markets for 30 years, this looks like a top and a very big one. In that it's very difficult to make money if you're buying stocks at whatever, 25 times sales, 30 times earnings, especially when they're growing at 3 to 4% and when interest rates are where they are. But quick review of where we are with, I'll call it sell high, buy low, long, short. This was inspired by how some hedge funds operate, where they do pair trades or long short trades. And the idea is that you sell one thing, you take the money and you buy the other. So, there's nothing more hype today in this market than NVIDIA. And so you can see this is from February 6th. NVIDIA is up 20%. And I say what's low today that, I'll say over 3 years is going to outperform is Tesla. So the selling high would be NVIDIA. The buying low would be Tesla. Obviously, this one is down 12%. Next one is related to the topic of this live stream, which is that people are very focused on chips, on semiconductors. And in my opinion, where the market is going versus where the market is now. The market is now very hyped about AI through semiconductors. And we like AI as well, but not through semiconductors. I would tell you there's a lot of companies implementing AI for customer service. Dean mentioned Lemonade for insurance. That's where you want to be, in our judgment, in our opinion. But here, you're selling semiconductor ETF, buying the biotech index XBI. That's doing better, plus 8.38% in my favor. And then this one is also where people have piled into, I'll call it safety stability stocks. Berkshire Hathaway is the leader of this stock. It's been bid up to some crazy height. And what's Berkshire have primarily? They got $165 billion in cash. They got a bunch of stocks that are incredibly highly valued at very high levels. That's what they are invested in. Meanwhile, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor has taken and made a gigantic bet on Bitcoin. And you can see this one obviously is very much in favor of MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. And then also wanted to very rapidly put up this analysis on why Bitcoin is going up. and then I'm going to end because I think it's worth noting in case people are unaware, like, well, why is Bitcoin going up? Well, it's because of this. It's because of this. So the Bitcoin ETF was approved on January 10th, and since then, $5.74 billion has gone on a net basis into Bitcoin. There is a total of $42 billion sitting in Bitcoin ETFs, which includes the original GBTC, and it represents about 4%, a little under 4%. I'm sure we'll be at 4% in a week or two at the most. And that's why Bitcoin's price has been going up. I mean, if you want to look over here, you can see Grayscale, which is kind of like the original Bitcoin ETF, has 25.3 billion in it. BlackRock, which got started on January 10th, already has 7.4 billion. Fidelity also started on January 10th, 5.3 billion. 21 shares, which is Kathy Wood's ARK Innovations Bitcoin ETF, has 1.8. So there's already 5 ETFs with over $1 billion in it, swallowing. I mean, this is the amount of Bitcoin that it's swallowing per day. So, for example, yesterday, the ETF swallowed up 4,470 Bitcoin. Just remember, the daily production of Bitcoin from miners is 900. So, I mean, you got to come up with almost 3,500 more. Where are they getting this from? Well, markets work in the same way, which is that if there's huge demand and there's not enough supply, then you push the price higher to try and get somebody to sell it to you. But if we're going to be doing 5 times the daily production of Bitcoin every day, and in previous days you can see 3,338, somewhat light day here, 694, 1,849. But you can see, I mean, we're doing like 3,000-4,000 every day, which is 4 to 5 times whatever the production is. Well, that's what is driving Bitcoin higher, and there's every sign that more people are going to pile into Bitcoin. Why? Well, if you're interested in Bitcoin today and you're not in Bitcoin, why are you interested? Well, because you can see the price has spiked up. So in financial markets, we are psychological animals, and we don't react to price in the same way we would if, if some merchandise was on sale. There, if you cut the price, people will buy. In financial markets, we want to see rising prices. That's what draws people in. And so, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has gone from 38,000 to 57,000 in the space of 3 or 4 weeks. There's more people paying attention. And now it's very easy. You just go to your brokerage account and you can buy a Bitcoin ETF. More demand is coming, if I'm right. And, I've laid out in my video that I did on Friday why I think like Bitcoin could, not a guarantee, not a certainty, see like $1 million, $1.3 million in this halving cycle. Not tomorrow, not next year, but why? Well, I laid out the reasons in my Friday live stream, so go check that out. And I'll actually be making a longer video. I had to make some corrections to my model, which I'm going to make a video for ATG Digital Purple tier subscribers. Not trying to get you to subscribe, but we have to give some benefits, obviously, to our subscribers. Purple tier members, I'm going to make one new video with some corrected numbers, which I'm going to do this week. So if you're interested in that, well, check into atgdigital.media. And with that, I'm going to end the live stream, say, hey, subscribe so you get a notification when we come on. Don't forget, Dean's channel, 777 Finance. Check out the Substack, which is paulmampilli.substack.com. Where is that Substack thing? Dean's like, you need to plug the Substack more. I'm like, you're right. I should. Yeah. The Substack is paulmampilli.substack.com. There's the podcast. All right. I'm going to cut this off here and say thanks for coming on. Let me quickly do questions. Is there a way to close a position and put the money into another stock without paying taxes on the gains? I am not a tax advisor, and if there is, I don't know of one. But somebody who is super sophisticated in taxes might be able to tell you. Jose Luera says, subscribe to 77 Finance. Thank you, Jose. He also asked what happened to Ian Dyer. Ian chose to leave ATG Digital Finance. for any number of reasons, and has gone his own way. We don't know where Ian is, but we wish him well, and hopefully he's doing well. That, I think, is it. All right, with that, for real. Bye, everyone. See you soon. Subscribe so you get notification for the next live